The battlefield was chaos. A cacophony of energy blasts and screaming metal as rebel forces clashed with Solarian royal guards in the dense jungles of Rara. Sergeant Jack Harlan, a human soldier serving as part of an interstellar peacekeeping force, had been dropped into the conflict zone as a last-minute reinforcement. His mission was clear: protect King Lyros of Solaria at all costs. Jack's ship roared low over the jungle canopy, dropping him and his squad into the thick of the fighting. The rebels, a splinter group seeking to overthrow the Solarian monarchy, had laid an ambush for the royal convoy. King Lyros's hovercraft was stranded, its sleek silver frame riddled with scorch marks, and its guards fighting desperately to hold the line. "Move in! Secure the king!" Jack barked, his voice cutting through the din as he led his squad toward the stranded convoy. His plasma rifle barked with precision, taking down rebel attackers with deadly efficiency. As they pushed closer, Jack spotted King Lyros, a tall figure with golden-hued skin and ceremonial armor, directing his guards despite the chaos. The rebels were closing in fast. Jack's instincts kicked in, and he charged forward, cutting through the enemy ranks. "Your Majesty, we're getting you out of here!" Jack shouted over the roar of battle. Lyros hesitated, his pride warring with practicality, but Jack's determined gaze left no room for argument. Together, they fought their way to the extraction point, where Jack's ship hovered, waiting. As the rebels pressed harder, Jack stayed behind to cover the king's retreat, ensuring Lyros's safe escape at great personal risk. By the time Jack climbed aboard the ship, bloodied and exhausted, the battle was over, and King Lyros was safe. "You have my gratitude, Sergeant Harlan," Lyros said solemnly. "You've done more for me than I could have ever expected." Jack was summoned to the Solarian royal palace 2 days later, a sprawling architectural marvel that seemed to hover between the ground and sky, its crystalline spires shimmering in the sunlight. The summons came as a surprise. He had expected little more than a formal acknowledgement for his actions, not a personal audience with the king. The palace's grand hall was filled with courtiers, advisors, and guards, all watching as Jack approached King Lyros, who sat on an elevated throne. The king rose, his golden eyes gleaming with gratitude. "Sergeant Harlan, step forward." Jack complied, bowing slightly out of respect. "Your Majesty." Lyros's voice resonated through the hall. "You saved my life. Such bravery cannot go unrewarded. As a gesture of my deepest gratitude, I offer you a gift of unparalleled significance." Before Jack could respond, Lyros gestured, and the crowd parted to reveal a figure stepping forward. She was tall and striking, her silver hair cascading like a waterfall over her shoulders, her features both regal and timeless. Queen Marisa, Lyros's mother and former queen of Solaria, radiated an aura of wisdom and grace. Jack's mouth opened slightly in shock. The murmurs of the court were audible as Lyros continued. "My mother, Queen Marisa, has agreed to join you as a gesture of our bond. She will be your guide and ally as you navigate Solarian society should you choose to accept." Jack's mind raced. He had expected a medal, perhaps a promotion, not the company of a queen. "Your Majesty, this is unexpected." Marisa stepped closer, her voice soft but steady. "It is our tradition, Sergeant. My presence signifies not just gratitude but trust." Jack straightened, nodding despite his lingering disbelief. "Then I accept, Your Majesty. I'll do my best to honor this gift." Lyros smiled, his tone warm. "You've already proven yourself, Sergeant. May this be the start of something greater." As Jack and Marisa left the hall, whispers followed them, and Jack couldn't help but wonder what he had just agreed to, and how it would change his life. Jack Harlan followed Queen Marisa through the intricate halls of the Solarian royal palace, feeling a mix of awe and discomfort. The corridors shimmered with ethereal light, their crystalline walls alive with shifting hues. The queen moved gracefully, her silver hair catching the ambient glow, while Jack's boots echoed awkwardly on the pristine floors. "You seem unsettled," Marisa said, glancing back at him, her tone calm yet probing. Jack chuckled nervously. "Unsettled might be an understatement. I'm a soldier, ma'am, not someone used to this." She smiled faintly, gesturing toward a side corridor. "Then consider this an opportunity to broaden your horizons." The room they entered was a private study, its walls lined with floating holograms that displayed Solarian history, philosophy, and culture. Marisa gestured for Jack to sit. "If we are to work together, you must understand Solaria's traditions. My son's gesture was symbolic, but it is not without meaning. Jack leaned forward, his curiosity overcoming his hesitation. Why me? Why not one of your own? Because you are an outsider, Marisa said simply. You see us without bias. And you saved my son's life, earning not just gratitude but respect. That carries weight in Celeria. Over the next few days, Marisa took it upon herself to educate Jack. She introduced him to Celerian customs, from their complex dining etiquette to their nuanced political system. Jack found himself drawn to her insights, her words carrying a blend of wisdom and warmth. In return, Jack shared stories of Earth, its struggles, triumphs, and complexities. Marisa listened intently, her questions thoughtful. Your world is chaotic, she remarked one evening as they strolled through the palace gardens. Yet, there is resilience in your people. That is admirable. Jack smiled, his initial discomfort fading. We do what we can with what we've got. Despite their differences, the two began to forge an unlikely camaraderie, built on mutual respect and curiosity. Their growing bond was tested when troubling news reached the palace. Rebel forces, emboldened by the king's perceived distraction following the recent attack, had launched a series of coordinated strikes across Celeria's outer provinces. The situation was rapidly escalating, threatening to destabilize the kingdom. At a council meeting, Marisa stood beside King Lyros as advisors argued over the best course of action. Some called for an immediate military response, while others advocated caution. Jack, invited to the meeting at Marisa's suggestion, observed the chaos silently until Lyros addressed him. Sergeant Harlan, the king said, his voice cutting through the noise. You have faced these rebels firsthand. What do you make of their tactics? Jack stood, his tone measured. They're organized, which means they've got strong leadership. Hitting them head-on might win a battle, but it won't end the war. If you want to root them out, you need to disrupt their coordination. The room fell silent as the advisors considered his words. Marisa turned to Lyros, her voice calm but firm. The human's perspective is worth considering. His experience offers insights we may lack. Lyros nodded. Then it is decided. Sergeant Harlan, you will assist in devising a strategy to deal with the rebels. After the meeting, Jack and Marisa convened in the war room, studying holographic maps of Celeria's provinces. These attacks are too precise to be random, Jack said, tracing patterns on the map. They're targeting supply lines and key infrastructure. We need to find their leader and cut the head off the snake. Marisa nodded, her expression thoughtful. There is a rumor of a hidden stronghold in the Xerion wastes. If the rebels are as coordinated as you suggest, that may be their base of operations. As they planned their next move, Jack couldn't help but notice Marisa's quiet strength. She was more than a symbol of gratitude. She was a vital ally, her intelligence and resolve matching her regal presence. Their mission would be dangerous, but for the first time since the king's unexpected gesture, Jack felt a sense of purpose beyond duty. Together, they were forging a path forward, not just for themselves but for the future of Celeria. The Xerion waste stretched endlessly before them, a desolate expanse of jagged rocks and shimmering heat. Jack Harlan adjusted his visor, the harsh sun reflecting off the sandy terrain. Beside him, Queen Marisa moved with surprising ease, her elegant robes adapted for the journey, infused with Celerian technology to repel the harsh elements. Their small team consisted of Jack, Marisa, and 3 Celerian operatives, each trained for covert missions. The stronghold they sought was said to be hidden beneath the wastes, a labyrinthine network of underground caverns that housed the rebel leadership. Jack glanced at Marisa as they trudged forward. You didn't have to come, you know. Marisa smiled faintly, her gaze fixed on the horizon. You underestimate me, Sergeant. This is not my first time in the field. Her confidence was reassuring, but Jack remained wary. The wastes were treacherous, and every step deeper into the desert heightened the sense of danger. As they approached the coordinates Marisa had suggested, Jack signaled for the team to halt. He crouched, examining faint tracks in the sand. They're here, he murmured. Heavy equipment, recent movement. They're close. The team advanced cautiously, using the rocky terrain for cover. They reached the entrance to a concealed bunker, its metal hatch partially buried under sand. Jack motioned for silence, gesturing for one of the operatives to scan for traps. The scanner beeped faintly, confirming the presence of automated defenses. Figures, Jack muttered. He dismantled the traps with practiced efficiency, his military training shining through. Once the path was clear, they descended into the bunker, the temperature dropping as they moved deeper underground. The air inside the rebels' stronghold was stale, filled with the hum of machinery and faint voices echoing through the tunnels. Jack led the group with his weapon drawn, Marisa close behind him. Her calm presence was a steadying force, even as tension hung thick in the air. They passed through dimly lit corridors, encountering minimal resistance at first. The rebels they encountered were caught off guard, their defenses insufficient against the combined skill of Jack and the operatives. However, it wasn't long before the alarm sounded, the wail echoing through the tunnels. "They know we're here," Marisa said, her voice steady. "We need to move quickly." Jack nodded. "Head for the command center. If we can disable their communications, we'll cut off their coordination." As they advanced, resistance grew fiercer. Rebel forces poured into the corridors, forcing the team into a series of intense firefights. Jack's precision and Marisa's quick thinking kept them ahead, but the sheer number of enemies began to wear on the group. In one corridor, a rebel grenade arced toward them. Marisa reacted instinctively, summoning a protective barrier with the faint traces of Solarian magic she still possessed. The explosion was contained, but the strain left her momentarily weakened. "You all right?" Jack asked, helping her to her feet. Marisa nodded, her breath steadying. "I'm fine, let's keep moving." They reached the command center, a sprawling room filled with holographic displays and terminals. Rebel leaders shouted orders, scrambling to respond to the intrusion. Jack and the team moved swiftly, neutralizing threats with calculated precision. Marisa accessed one of the terminals, her fingers gliding over the alien interface. "I found their communication hub," she said. "Disabling it now." As the systems powered down, confusion spread among the rebels. Without their network, their forces faltered, and the remaining resistance began to crumble. But before they could celebrate, the doors to the command center burst open, and a towering figure entered. The rebel leader, clad in advanced Solarian armor, radiated authority and menace. His voice was a low growl. "You think you've won? This is only the beginning." Jack stepped forward, his weapon raised. "Then let's finish it." The leader charged, his strength and speed enhanced by his armor. Jack engaged him in a brutal close-quarters fight, his combat instincts tested to their limits. Meanwhile, Marisa and the operatives worked to secure the room, fending off the remaining rebels. The fight was intense, but Jack's determination and resourcefulness proved decisive. Using a combination of precision strikes and clever tactics, he managed to disable the leader's armor, delivering a final blow that incapacitated him. With the rebel leader subdued and their communication network destroyed, the stronghold fell silent. Jack and Marisa stood together in the aftermath, their bond strengthened by the battle. "We've dealt a major blow to their efforts," Marisa said, her voice tinged with exhaustion but resolute. "But this war is far from over." Jack nodded, his expression grim but determined. "Then we keep fighting, together." As they left the stronghold, the first rays of dawn broke over the wastes, a symbol of the hope they had kindled in the face of chaos. The fallout from the raid on the rebel stronghold rippled across Celeria. With their leader captured and communications severed, the rebels were forced to retreat, but their desperation made them dangerous. From within the royal palace, Jack and Marisa coordinated efforts to stabilize the kingdom, working alongside King Lyros to secure peace in the vulnerable provinces. Reports came in of scattered rebel cells attacking supply lines and staging hit-and-run assaults. During a strategy meeting in the war room, an urgent transmission interrupted their discussion. It was a message from the rebels, their new leader speaking with calculated calm. "We acknowledge your recent victories," the figure said, their voice distorted by a voice modulator. "But your kingdom remains fragile. We propose a truce. Meet with us in neutral territory, or the bloodshed will continue." King Lyros's advisors were divided. Some urged caution, suspecting a trap, while others argued for diplomacy. Jack, standing beside Marisa, weighed the risks. "It's likely a setup," he said. "But if there's even a chance to end this without more bloodshed, it's worth considering." Marisa nodded, her calm voice carrying weight. "We cannot ignore the opportunity. If we refuse, they will claim the moral high ground and rally more to their cause. Reluctantly, Lyros agreed. Jack and Marisa were chosen to represent the kingdom, their combined strength and wit deemed crucial for the delicate mission. The meeting was arranged in an abandoned mining facility on the outskirts of Solaria's capital. Jack and Marisa arrived with a small team of guards, their every step shadowed by the tension of impending betrayal. The rebels had positioned their forces strategically, their presence palpable, even though they remained unseen. The rebel envoy, a wiry woman with piercing eyes and a scar across her cheek, stepped forward. "Sergeant Harlan, Queen Marisa, welcome. Let's hope this conversation proves fruitful." Jack remained wary, his gaze scanning the surroundings. "We're here to talk, but don't mistake that for weakness." The envoy smirked. "Of course not." As negotiations began, Marisa's eloquence shone. She countered the rebels' grievances with reason and offered solutions that demonstrated genuine intent for reform. Jack, meanwhile, kept a close eye on the rebels, his instincts warning him that something was amiss. His suspicions were confirmed when he noticed subtle movements among the rebel ranks. "It's a setup," he muttered to Marisa. Before she could respond, the room erupted in chaos as hidden explosives detonated and rebel forces poured in. The explosion threw Jack and Marisa into chaos. The mining facility's structure groaned as debris fell, cutting them off from their guards. Jack quickly assessed their situation, pulling Marisa to her feet. "We need to move now." The rebels had planned their ambush well, using the collapsing structure to corner their prey. Jack led Marisa through the crumbling corridors, using his military instincts to navigate the chaos. Behind them, rebel fighters pursued relentlessly. Marisa, despite the danger, remained composed. "If they capture us, they will use us as leverage against Lyros. We cannot allow that." "Not gonna happen," Jack growled, firing his weapon to cover their retreat. The pair reached an abandoned section of the mine, where Marisa paused, placing her hand against the wall. "This facility was built over a Solarian energy node," she said, her voice steady. "I can tap into it, but I'll need time." Jack nodded, taking position at the entrance. "Do what you have to do. I'll hold them off." As Marisa concentrated, her hands glowing faintly with Solarian magic, Jack faced wave after wave of rebels. His shots were precise, his movements calculated. Despite being outnumbered, he refused to yield. Marisa's voice broke through the noise. "The energy is unstable. When I release it, the entire section will collapse." Jack glanced back at her, determination etched on his face. "Then let's make sure we're not in it when it does." The rebels pressed closer, their leader shouting orders. Marisa unleashed the energy, a surge of light and force that rippled through the mine, collapsing walls and cutting off their pursuers. Jack grabbed her hand, pulling her through a narrow passage just as the ceiling caved in behind them. They emerged into the open air, battered but alive. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the landscape. Jack looked at Marisa, her silver hair illuminated by the fading light. "That was too close." Marisa managed a faint smile. "Perhaps, but we live to fight another day." Back at the palace, their return was met with relief. The failed ambush exposed the rebels' desperation, giving Lyros the leverage needed to rally his forces and tighten the kingdom's defenses. Jack and Marisa, now closer than ever, prepared for the next phase of their fight. "This isn't over," Jack said as they stood on the palace balcony gazing at the stars. Marisa nodded, her voice resolute. "No, but together, we will see it through." Their bond, forged in fire and strengthened by trust, had become an unbreakable alliance, a beacon of hope in Solaria's darkest hour. The failed ambush in the mines shifted the tide of the rebellion. The rebels, desperate and fractured, retreated to their last stronghold, a massive underground fortress deep within the volcanic regions of Solaria. Intelligence gathered from captured operatives revealed their leader's plan. A devastating attack on the royal city using experimental Solarian energy weapons capable of leveling entire districts. In the royal war room, Jack and Marisa stood with King Lyros and his advisors, reviewing holographic projections of the fortress. The tension was palpable. "If they succeed in launching those weapons, the capital won't survive," an advisor warned. Jack folded his arms, his expression grim. "Then we hit them before they're ready." Lyros glanced at Marisa, his trust in her evident. "What do you propose?" Marisa stepped forward, her calm voice carrying the weight of her resolve. We need a two-pronged attack. While the army draws their forces out, a smaller team infiltrates the fortress to disable the weapons and capture their leader. Their cohesion hinges on him. Without their commander, the rebellion will collapse. Lyros nodded. And who will lead this infiltration? Jack stepped forward without hesitation. I will. Marisa and I have worked together through worse. We'll get it done. The plan was set. As the royal army prepared to march on the fortress, Jack and Marisa assembled a small team of elite operatives. Each member carried advanced weaponry and gear designed to counter the rebels' defenses. Before departing, Jack and Marisa shared a quiet moment in the palace gardens. The moonlight reflected off the water, casting a serene glow over the scene. Are you ready for this? Jack asked, his voice low. Marisa met his gaze, her silver hair shimmering in the light. I've spent my life serving Celeria in one way or another. If this is what it takes to secure its future, then yes, I'm ready. Jack smiled faintly, his respect for her deepening. Let's make sure we both come back. The infiltration began under the cover of darkness. The volcanic terrain was treacherous, with molten rivers and jagged cliffs providing natural defenses for the rebel fortress. Jack led the team through narrow passages, his military instincts guiding their every move. Marisa followed closely, her presence steady and unyielding. They reached the fortress's outer perimeter, where automated turrets and energy shields guarded the entrance. Marisa knelt beside a console embedded in the rock, her hands glowing faintly as she manipulated the device. I can disrupt the shield, but it'll only last a few minutes. That's all we need, Jack said, signaling the team to prepare. As the shield flickered and fell, the team surged forward, taking out the guards with swift precision. Inside the fortress, the air was thick with the hum of machinery and the acrid smell of molten metal. The rebels, caught off guard by the breach, scrambled to mount a defense. Jack and his team pressed on, their movements synchronized. Marisa used her magic sparingly, conserving her energy for what lay ahead. They encountered resistance at every turn, but their determination drove them forward. Finally, they reached the weapons control center, a massive chamber filled with glowing consoles and the towering forms of the experimental energy cannons. At its center stood the rebel leader, a towering figure clad in intricate armor that pulsed with energy. You've come far, the leader said, his voice resonating through the chamber, but it ends here. The rebel leader activated the cannons, their cores glowing with an ominous light. You think you can stop this? He taunted. Celeria's monarchy is a relic, and you're clinging to a dying order. Jack leveled his weapon, his voice cold. Relics don't bleed people dry like you have. The room erupted into chaos. The leader, wielding advanced energy gauntlets, engaged Jack in a brutal melee. Sparks flew as the gauntlets clashed with Jack's combat blade, their blows sending shockwaves through the chamber. Marisa, meanwhile, focused on disabling the cannons. She moved swiftly between consoles, her fingers dancing over the controls as she fought to override the systems. I need more time, she called over the din. We're on the clock, Jack shouted back, narrowly dodging a blast of energy. The fight with the rebel leader was relentless. Jack's years of military training clashed with the raw power of the leader's enhanced armor. Each strike tested his endurance, but Jack's resilience kept him in the fight. Marisa, sensing the urgency, unleashed a surge of magic. The glow from her hands intensified as she connected with the fortress's energy grid, redirecting its power to destabilize the cannons. The weapons began to falter, their cores dimming. The rebel leader noticed the shift and turned his fury on Marisa. You dare defy me? He roared, launching a blast of energy toward her. Jack threw himself between Marisa and the attack, absorbing the brunt of the blast with his reinforced armor. The impact sent him sprawling, but he pushed himself back to his feet, his determination unbroken. Not today, he growled, charging at the leader with renewed ferocity. With a final, decisive strike, Jack severed the power source on the leader's armor. Sparks erupted as the system failed, and the rebel leader collapsed to his knees. Marisa finished her work, shutting down the cannons entirely. The room fell silent, save for the crackle of damaged machinery. Jack and Marisa stood together, battered but victorious. The remaining rebels, demoralized by the loss of their leader and weapons, surrendered without further resistance. Back in the capital, Their return was met with celebration. The rebellion was over, and Celeria began the process of rebuilding. Jack and Marisa were hailed as heroes, their bond symbolizing the unity needed to move forward. One evening, as they stood on the palace balcony overlooking the glowing city, Jack turned to Marisa. "You know, I didn't expect any of this when your son handed me your partnership." Marisa laughed softly, her eyes reflecting the stars. "And I didn't expect a soldier from Earth to become one of Celeria's greatest allies." Jack smiled, his voice steady. "Here's to more unexpected outcomes." Together, they looked to the horizon, ready to face the future as partners, allies, and something far deeper. A testament to what trust and determination could achieve in even the most unlikely of circumstances.